Welcome back. This is an Aleks training video on making qualitative estimates of pH change. So there's a lot going to be asked of you here. I think you can do this, but there's a lot of different things you have to know to get this one right. First thing you're going to have to know is to be able to look at a formula and tell whether it's an acid or a base or neither. Okay, so let's just look at these first before we even ask any other questions. Water, H2O is water. It's not an acid, it's not a base. In fact, it's going to have the same amount of H and pH. So if water gives away an H, the thing that's left over is OH. Well, that means there's just as much OH, which is a base, as there is H, which is an acid. So water is exactly neutral. It's 7 out of 14. So anything less than 7 is going to be acidic. Anything more than 7, greater than 7, is going to be basic or alkaline. So water is neutral. And how about this one? HNO3, nitric acid. And you can tell it's an acid because it starts with H. There's a proton to give away. So if you know that you've got nitric acid in water, what's the initial type, acid, basic, or neutral? Well, if you've got nitric acid and you can recognize that there's an H there to give away, and especially if it's at the beginning, if it's H something, it's an acid. Okay? If you have OH something, you've got hydroxide, which is a base. But if you have H something, H plus something else, that's an acid. Okay, so we're going to start here by saying that that's acidic. Okay, what's this next one? H2O. Well, that's water. And if you break apart, if it gives away an H, which it can, well then what's left over? The OH. So you have just exactly the same amount of OH, which is a base, and H, which is an acid. And so this is going to be neutral. Water is neutral. All right? What about H2O again? That's water, neutral, and HNO3. Well, nitric acid, you already remember. That was an acid, so we've already done that one, acidic. And then the last one, H2O, is neutral. All right, so we're starting here, and now they're going to add something and ask you what happens to the pH. So let's first of all say that if you have an OH, something that's an OH, that's a base. If you add a base, the pH gets higher, okay, towards 14. When you've got lots of acid, it's down towards 0. 0 and 1, that would be very acidic. 13 and 14, that would be very, very basic or very alkaline. Okay, so if you add something, especially hydroxide, if you add a base, it's going to raise the pH. Okay, so we'll do that one. The pH goes higher. All right, what about this next one? You're adding KClO4. All right, is there any OH? No, there's no hydroxide, so it's not a base. Is there any H to give? There's no H, so this is not an acid. This is not a base. This is a salt, and the salt, if you add salt to a solution, it does not change the pH at all. Okay, so we are looking for hydroxide specifically and protons, cation H's, hydrogens, to know whether it's acidic or basic. Anything that's not one of those is going to be a salt, and it won't change the pH at all. Okay. The next one, I'm adding sodium nitrate. Well, I don't see a hydroxide here, so it's not a base. There's no hydrogen, so it's not an acid. Again, sodium nitrate is a salt. You put it in the solution, it just dissolves. There's no difference in the pH at all. So this is going to, pH stays the same. And the last one here, you're going to add some HClO4, okay, which is chloric acid, or perchloric acid, and obviously it's an acid because I've got a hydrogen. Okay, I've got a hydrogen here, so that's an acid. If you add an acid, what happens to the pH? Okay, remember it's the pH scale goes from 0 through 7 up to 14. Anything less than 7 is going to be pH. Anything greater than 7 is going to be basic or alkaline. But the acid gets stronger and stronger and stronger the way as it goes away from 7. So when you have a pH of 0 or pH of 1, you've got a really, really concentrated acid. But when you have 1, 13, or 14, your pH is much higher, then that's more alkaline. So that's kind of something to keep in mind. As the concentration of H3O plus, which is hydronium, as it goes up, the pH goes down. All right, so if I add acid, it's going to lower the pH. Okay, a lower pH is more acidic than a higher pH. A higher pH is more basic or more alkaline. Okay, so just question after question shows understanding. So that's why these questions have multiple questions, because you have to understand it in order to answer it. It's not just a recall question and you can't Google it. You have to understand it. So just see me in class and I'll help you if you need it.